There was once a young man who believed that luck had abandoned him. No matter how hard he worked, problems followed him. When he earned money, unexpected expenses appeared. When he found peace, new worries arrived. When he made plans, obstacles stood in his way. One day, feeling exhausted, he visited a wise teacher. The young man bowed respectfully and said, "Master, why does bad luck follow me everywhere? Why do small problems feel so heavy? Why does life seem unfair?" The teacher looked at him quietly and smiled. Without answering, he handed the young man a handful of salt. "Place this salt into a glass of water," the teacher said. The young man did as he was told. "Now, drink it." The young man took a sip and immediately made a face. "It tastes terrible," he replied. "Very bitter." The teacher nodded. Then he gave the young man another handful of salt and asked him to follow him. Together they walked to a large, peaceful lake surrounded by trees. The teacher said, "Now place the same amount of salt into the lake." The young man obeyed. "Take some water from the lake and drink it." The young man knelt down, cupped the water in his hands, and drank. "How does it taste?" asked the teacher. "Fresh and pleasant," the young man answered. The teacher smiled again. "The salt is still there." The young man looked confused. "Yes," said the teacher. The same amount of salt was placed into both the glass and the lake, yet one became bitter, while the other remained fresh. The Sabasesimayan young man remained silent. Then the teacher spoke words that would change his life forever. "The difficulties of life are like salt. Pain, disappointment, failure, criticism, loss, and uncertainty come to everyone. No one escapes them. The amount of salt is often beyond your control, but what changes everything is the size of the container that holds it." The young man listened carefully. When your mind becomes small, every problem feels enormous. A single insult ruins your day. A small setback destroys your confidence. One mistake convinces you that life is against you. In a small glass, even a little salt becomes unbearable. The teacher pointed toward the lake. But when your heart becomes wider, your understanding deeper, and your patience stronger, the same difficulties lose their power. The salt remains, but it no longer controls. Life's problems are like salt difficulties. Failures, worries, and disappointments are a natural part of life and cannot be completely avoided. Every person experiences challenges, disappointments, and unexpected difficulties in life. No matter how careful, intelligent, or hardworking someone may be, there will always be moments of loss, failure, confusion, and uncertainty. These experiences are like salt. Salt is not pleasant when tasted by itself. Yet it exists in almost every kitchen because it is a natural part of life. In the same way, problems are not signs that life is unfair or that luck has abandoned us. They are simply part of the human experience. Many people spend years wondering why difficulties keep appearing in their lives. They believe that if they could just eliminate every problem, they would finally be happy. However, life does not work that way. New challenges often arrive just as old ones disappear. A financial setback may be followed by a personal disappointment. A stressful situation may be replaced by a different concern. This cycle is common to everyone. The important lesson is to understand that problems themselves are not the true enemy. The presence of difficulties does not mean that we are cursed or unlucky. Just as salt naturally exists in food, challenges naturally exist in life. When we accept this truth, we stop wasting energy resisting reality and begin focusing on how to respond wisely, calmly, and courageously to whatever life places before you. Your mind determines the impact. The same problem can feel overwhelming or manageable, depending on the size of your perspective and emotional strength. The impact of any difficulty is often determined not by the event itself, but by the way we perceive it. Two people can face the same challenge and experience it very differently. One person may see a setback as proof that life is against them, while another may see it as an opportunity to learn and grow. The situation is the same, but the response is completely different. This is why the state of the mind plays such an important role in shaping our experience of life. When the mind is filled with fear, frustration, or negativity, even a small problem can feel overwhelming. A minor criticism may ruin an entire day. A temporary failure may seem like the end of all hope. The mind magnifies the difficulty until it appears much larger than it really is. On the other hand, when the mind is calm, balanced, and patient, challenges lose much of their power. They are still present, but they no longer control our emotions or disturb our inner peace. A strong mind does not ignore problems or pretend they do not exist. Instead, it sees them clearly and responds with wisdom rather than panic. By developing patience, understanding, and self-awareness, we gradually change the way we experience life's difficulties. The world may remain the same, but our perspective transforms, and that transformation changes everything. A small mind creates bitterness when we react negatively to every challenge. Even small setbacks can make life feel painful and unfair. When the mind becomes small and narrow, life begins to feel much heavier than it truly is. A person with a limited perspective often focuses only on the immediate discomfort of a situation. They become trapped by their emotions, allowing fear, anger, resentment, or disappointment to dominate their thoughts. As a result, even minor difficulties can create deep frustration and suffering. A single negative comment may be remembered for days. One mistake may lead to feelings of failure and self-doubt. Small problems grow larger because the mind gives them more space and attention than they deserve. This bitterness does not come from the challenge itself, but from the way it is held within the mind. When people constantly complain, compare themselves to others, or expect life to be perfect, they become more sensitive to every inconvenience. They begin to see obstacles everywhere, and may even believe that bad luck follows them. Over time, this way of thinking drains their energy and prevents them from appreciating the good things that still exist in their lives. A narrow mind tends to react immediately without understanding the bigger picture. It forgets that every challenge is temporary and that difficult moments eventually pass. The more a person clings to negative thoughts, the more bitterness grows. Expanding one's perspective helps reduce this bitterness, allowing challenges to be seen as lessons rather than burdens, and creating greater peace within. Expand your inner world. Gratitude, patience, kindness, understanding, and self-awareness help create a stronger and more peaceful mindset. A peaceful and resilient life is not created by changing the outside world, but by expanding the qualities that exist within us. When a person develops gratitude, patience, kindness, understanding, and self-awareness, their inner world becomes larger and stronger. These qualities act like a vast lake that can absorb life's difficulties without becoming disturbed. The challenges may still exist, but they no longer dominate every thought or emotion. Gratitude teaches us to recognize what is good in our lives instead of focusing only on what is missing. Patience helps us remain calm during difficult times, understanding that not every problem requires an immediate solution. Kindness softens the heart and prevents bitterness from taking root. When we treat others with compassion, we also create greater peace within ourselves. Understanding allows us to see situations from a broader perspective, reducing unnecessary anger and judgment. Self-awareness helps us observe our thoughts and emotions without being controlled by them. These qualities do not appear overnight. They grow through daily practice and conscious effort. Every moment of patience strengthens. Patience, every act of kindness strengthens kindness. Every expression of gratitude strengthens gratitude. Over time, these habits transform the way we experience life. Challenges that once felt overwhelming begin to seem manageable. By expanding our inner world, we create a foundation of stability and wisdom that remains strong even when circumstances around us are uncertain. Luck changes when you change. True, good fortune comes not from removing all problems, but from becoming resilient enough that problems no longer control your happiness. Many people spend their lives waiting for luck to change. They believe that happiness will arrive when circumstances improve, when problems disappear, or when everything finally goes according to plan. However, true change does not begin in the outside world. It begins within. What people often call good luck is sometimes the result of a stronger mindset, wiser choices, and a calmer way of responding to life's challenges. When a person changes their attitude and perspective, they often discover opportunities and possibilities that were always present but previously unnoticed. A resilient person does not avoid difficulties. Instead, they learn how to face them with courage and understanding. When setbacks occur, they do not immediately assume that life is unfair or that fortune has turned against them. They view obstacles as temporary and focus on what can be learned from the experience. This approach allows them to recover more quickly and continue moving forward. As inner strength grows, fear loses its influence and confidence begins to develop. Challenges that once seemed overwhelming become manageable. Decisions become clearer. Relationships improve, and new opportunities are easier to recognize. To others, it may appear that luck has suddenly changed, but the real transformation has taken place inside the person. By developing wisdom, patience, and resilience, they create conditions for a more positive and fulfilling life. In this way, luck seems to change because they have changed first.